Hello and welcome to Wednesday. It's time for live Q&A, and I would love to hear how you're doing today. So if you're watching this in the replay, you can write it in the comments. How am I doing right now? I have a bit of a headache, just light, and yeah, so I find that a little bit challenging. Other than that, I feel a little bit nervousness right here, like I often do when I go live right here. And I also feel support from the chair that I'm sitting in. So what I wanted to talk about today is, what do we do when we have that experience of being so angry and frustrated with the fatigue? And maybe you've had this experience. I had this a lot, of being really angry with the fatigue, being angry with the experience of being constantly tired, being so angry and frustrated that no matter what I did, the fatigue was still there. The fatigue, the exhaustion, the tiredness, tröttheten if you're listening and you're in Sweden. So what do we do with this when we have this experience of being so angry with the fatigue? It doesn't help, right? Because the fatigue does not go away when we get angry with it. And at the same time, it's a very valid experience, because if you do have chronic fatigue or any such experience, then there will be a point, or there will be many times when you have that frustration, that anger, that you just want to get rid of it, right? You want to wake up and feel relaxed, feel full of energy, feel that, yes, finally the fatigue is over and I can do what I really want to do. But it doesn't come by itself, or it seldom, very rarely does. I still have yet to hear from anyone having had that experience. So I invite you to think about the fatigue as a person. And the reason why you can do this is because you can actually communicate with the fatigue. And if it is helpful to you, if you have a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, it might be helpful to think of it as a small child. Imagine that the fatigue, the tiredness, is a small child sitting there in front of you. And ask it what it has to say. What is it trying to tell you? And if you've never done this before, be patient with yourself, because it can take time learning to listen to this. It's not something that we've been taught in school, to listen to our inner communications, to our inner thoughts, to communication on this level. So I'm gonna show you how this can work by right now communicating with the headache that I have, because I do feel frustrated over it. I've had, over the past couple of weeks, I've had headaches several days. And so I can feel it, like sort of like this pressure at the top of my head, inside my head. Excuse me. And when I feel into it, I feel a sensation of like wanting to push down. When I ask it, what is it you want from me? What do you want to tell me? What I start hearing is slow down. And this is something that I've been hearing a lot lately. Slow down. Slow down. And maybe you recognize this. This time of year, and I know I've talked about this before, we're still in winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. Right now, outside my window, it's really snowy, it's cold. And yet we live in a society that expects us to be doing things, performing, achieving things. And I can feel that pressure as well. I've had my holidays over Christmas and New Year, and now I've started my work again. And I can feel the pressure of like, oh, I should be doing more. And again, I keep hearing, slow down. Slow down. It's not yet time to put in that next gear to do more things. And so, why do we want to do this? Why do we want to communicate with the fatigue like this? Well, one, because having that anger relationship with the fatigue is not going to solve anything. It's just going to put you in a situation where you are at war with your internal experience of fatigue, of tiredness, of exhaustion. And war never solves any problems. There is never a winner in war. And what that experience does, it causes inner stress, and it floods your system with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisone. And those are chemicals that are not conducive of healing. On the other hand, it perpetuates the experience of fatigue, the experience of illness, the experience of frustration, the experience of anger. And so when you communicate it with it, and especially if you imagine that it's a small child that you're communicating, and the reason why I say that is because if you have that really angry relationship with it, it might be hard. I'm not going to listen to that stupid fatigue. I hate it. I want to get rid of it. It might be easier to imagining it as a small child. Because if it's a small child, then maybe you're more lenient to listening to it, right? Something else that might be helpful in listening to it is coming from a place of asking yourself, okay, who in me is willing to listen to it? And maybe also who in me is really angry at it? Who in me is the one that is frustrated over it? And imagining that you're saying to the part of you that is angry, that is frustrated, that I hear you, I want you to sit here beside me for a minute, because I want to bring forth the part of me that is willing to listen to the fatigue. So imagine that you have the fatigue. Maybe you can imagine that the fatigue is in front of you, sitting on your lap, or whatever works for you. If it's hard to imagine it as a person or a child, you can imagine it as like a ball of energy, a ball of light, whatever works for you. There's no wrong or right in doing this practice or this exercise. And then just listen and see what answers you get. And try to be as open-minded as possible. This is also a practice in itself. Being open-minded and not coming with ideas of what the answers are going to be or what the answers should be. So when you do this, what happens is that you open up for communication, and you open up for creating another relationship with that part of yourself that is the fatigue, that is the exhaustion, that is the being tired all the time. And the body starts to relax, and that opens up for another set of chemicals in your body that enhance the healing process instead. And also, being at war with this, being in this frustration is something that takes a lot of energy, and that's the last thing we want to be doing, right? Putting energy into something that is not giving us energy, putting energy into something that just is frustrating and that is draining in itself. And at the same time, I also want to acknowledge that part, that piece that we put here to the side, that is the one that is really angry, that is really frustrated. We don't want to ignore that part either. So what you can do with that is either before or after you have the communication with the fatigue, the exhaustion, the tiredness, you can give space to that piece of you that is really angry, that is frustrated, to express itself. If it helps you, grab a pillow and just hit the pillow really hard. Get all your frustration out, all your anger, scream, kick, do whatever you need to do. And you can do this either out loud if you're in a space where you feel that you are private, that you don't have kids at home or anyone else that you feel that, oh, I don't want them listening to me when I'm sitting here screaming. You can do it like pretend, like screaming without making sound, hitting, like bring that little kid in you that is so angry and frustrated and allow it to have that temper tantrum so you can really get that energy out. Because it is a valid experience. It is a highly valid emotion to have, to be angry, to be frustrated, to be desperate because of the fatigue. So I hope this is helpful to you. If you do this practice, I would love to hear how it worked for you, what changed for you. And if you want to receive more support in transforming the fatigue, transforming the deep roots of the fatigue, I invite you to book a discovery call or apply to my one-on-one coaching program, Blissful Living. I have 2 spots opening up right now, and I would love to see you there. And if you want to learn more about who this is for and who this is not for, you can go ahead and check everything out. You'll find all that information on my website, and all of these things you will find in the links in my bio. So I'm going to finish this today with taking 3 deep breaths, because you know I love doing breath work. And I invite you to breathe with me, breathing in and taking a long breath out. And a deep breath in again. And then the out breath, sighing, or making any other sound that feels right and good to you. And one last time, breathing in. And breathing out and noticing what it feels like to do that long, long, long out breath. Okay, loves, sending you lots of love, and take really good care of yourself.